Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Sportscast Jersey. Today we are with two of Team Jersey squash players, Anthony Harkin and Sue Turpin. How are you both doing today?
Brilliant, thank you. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, all good, thanks.
Good. What I usually ask is, have you always been into sport? But what I want to ask first today is, when did you first find squash itself, and do you remember the first time you stepped on court and played? I'll start with you, Ant.
So I started squash found squash through a primary school taster session at Plateau School when I believe I was in year 5. Nick Taylor, who was the old development officer, came to the primary school for a squash taster session, and I kind of picked it up from there, really enjoyed it, and essentially joined the club and joined the junior program through that, and then ever since kind of just gone through the ranks, through the junior program, into the club adult leagues, all the way through to kind of where I am now.
Yeah, nice. How about you, Sue?
Well, I'd probably say I come from a big racket sports enthusiast family, one of 6 children. My dad was a keen tennis and squash and table tennis and any sort of racket sports player, and encouraged all of us to get on court and play racket sports. So yeah, fantastic for me to be part of a big squash playing family.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the sport itself, obviously some may know it more than others. I've played it myself a few times, but for those who might not know squash, can you describe it in basic terms and basically what the sport is? Go with Sue on this one.
Okay, well, so it's got 4 walls. You play, it's normally singles that you play, and you both have a racket and you're hitting against the front wall. And the objective of the game is to beat your opponent in a rally. That's the basics of squash. Anthony, would you like to add?
Yeah. So squash is it's kind of like an individual battle, really. So obviously you're playing an opponent, but half the time in squash you're playing yourself as well. But yeah, it's a good fast-paced sport. It can be played at all levels. Squash is really good now, where there's like so many adaptive balls that they use, but they all bounce differently. So squash can be played at all levels. But yeah, it's an intense, fast sport. Again, it's like a rally where you're hitting a ball against the wall, doing a lot of running, chasing the ball. But it's good because squash it's great physically, but it's also great mentally as well. You need a good mental game as well as a physical game, and it's quite technical as well. So it is an all-round sport, squash. Like I said, technically, mentally, physically. So you need kind of a good combo of all.
Yeah, definitely. And it was good descriptions, because I was thinking how easy it is to describe it before myself, and I was like, oh, I'll see what these two can come up with, and it's quite a good description. And in terms of the development of getting better and finding the sport, I guess, easier as you develop, how easy is it to develop? Do you remember how quickly you learnt the sport and how you came about as well?
What I would say is that of all the racket sports, I mean, I would say it's king of the racket sports in terms of your hand-eye coordination and the fact that you can solo practice and hit the ball to yourself, which with all other racket sports like badminton and tennis, you need a partner to train with. So squash is fantastic for the hand-eye and for, self-development of your playing skills, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like Susan touched on there, in squash, no matter if you don't have an opponent, the front wall will never let you down. You've always got an opportunity to play squash. Excuse me, whether that be with someone else or whether that be, like Sue said, just training on your own, hit the ball against the wall will always be there.
Yeah, really good point, and I've never really thought of that at all, which is strange, but it's so obvious, and it's a really good asset to the sport. Something I do want to touch on in this podcast is women in sport. Obviously, we'll touch on the intervention a bit later on, but it was tough to see there was no actual women's team on the Guernsey side, which hindered the amount of games for the women on the island. And how is the women's game developing on Ireland? What's the scene like at the moment?
Well, Dan, thank you very much for asking that question. Actually, I was recently involved with an England squash webinar that they did on inclusion and the importance of what they term becoming an ally, and for females that are in clubs to be that ally for young players coming through. We've seen that we've acknowledged that we have issues within our club, and we do not. We want to grow female participation, and we've taken steps. So we now have better representation on the committee. We are coaching more. We've got more female coaches involved, and we're soon to train up 5 coaches to level 2 female coaches. That's made quite a difference. We're seeing more junior girls come through to the sport as well as a result of having female coaches involved. There's a lot more that we would like to do, and that will evolve over time. But it would be to have some girls only sessions and also some mixed sessions. But there's lots to do to change the model and encourage more women into the sport.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. And on a personal note for you, Sue, how important is it to have those ladies there? So not only to develop your game, but on that social level as well, and to
Yes,
see more faces.
It was really acknowledged on both sides, both islands, that not having the ladies there from a social point of view and just from the general mix was a real disappointment. I mean, it was the first time since the ladies event first came in, and I think it was 1973, I think it might have been, but it was the first time that the ladies squash wasn't played, and that that's a great shame, really, given that there's so much going on with females in other sports, that it didn't happen for squash. We've made a commitment with Guernsey next year to try and match the levels and just encourage more people to get involved and play, because at the end of the day, much better that we play than we don't do it because one island's better than the other or whatever. So yeah. It's more about encouragement of whatever standard, let's play it.
Yeah, and I suppose the positive to take out of it, obviously it's unfortunate that Guernsey couldn't field a team, but it's also good to know that we could, if we wanted to, if they had players, we could field a strong 5 ladies team and get some players. And so that is good to know that we do have a reasonably good female representation in the game, and we can field teams for the Interinsular and the Euros that we're going to soon. So it is good. It just needs a bit of work, but I think it's an issue across all sports as well, not just squash.
Yeah. So Dan, part of this going to the Euros for the ladies team is that we've got a really young squad. 16, 18, and I think Beth 23. But fantastic to give them a vision and to give them something to aim for. We've got the Island Games, Orkney Island Games coming next year in 2025, and squash is back in. Hooray! So it's a mixed team that play there. So we need to, that's a lovely focus for us to have in terms of bringing on some of these girls, and hopefully it will inspire them to play more and raise their game. And like
Sue touched on before, it's all about having role models. I mean, probably a few years ago there wasn't many female role model squash players in the club. There used to be a fantastic ladies first team, but they've got kids and other commitments, so that kind of dropped off a bit. But Sue's been working really hard in the background trying to get the ladies back on court and playing, just so that the junior girls, they can see that there is progression there, that there are really strong, good lady female players, and they kind of want to train and try and represent Jersey in those events and play like the role models.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to touch on, and we'll come on to how they can get involved in a bit. But you mentioned the Euros there, so I want to jump to that for a bit now and talk about that. What's coming up? Going away to Bucharest, and explain a little bit what the tournament is and how excited the squad are ahead of it.
Yeah. So the European Team Championships is an annual event. It's hosted in a different country in Europe every year. So I've been 4 times. I've been to Slovenia, Latvia, Gibraltar last year, and there was one more I can't remember off the top of my head. But we're off to Romania next week, and basically the European event is fantastic because it's we're in Division 3. But the event actually runs across 3 divisions, and in Division 1, you've got the likes of the big hitters, England, France, Switzerland, for example. We're in Division 3, but it's still a great standard. It's an annual event, like I said, and basically you just go and you play squash, you get put in a group. It's kind of like the World Cup of Jersey squash. You get put in your group against these big countries, and you're battling out to try and get through the group, and then through to the quarterfinals, and so on and so on.
Yeah, definitely. How good is it to go out there and test yourself? I'm gonna say against unknown opposition, but if you've been a few times, you might get to know their faces. But how good is it to go out there and test yourselves against, obviously, Jersey small, you play the same people all the time. So how good is that?
Yeah, I mean it's fantastic. I mean sometimes, like when I think about it, when we go and play these teams, they have thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in these countries. And in the team championships, the team of 4, so they're fielding their 4 best players from hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and we're taking our best 4, which is fantastic, to compete against those. So like the level is really strong, but part of it is the good part of it is knowing, kind of not knowing who you're playing, so not knowing the unknown, and knowing that no games are going to be easy, that's going to be tough, but it gives you something to train for, gives you something to motivate you through the squash season, and these kind of off-island events are really like the pinnacle of a lot of our top squash players across the men's ladies squash seasons, really.
Dan, I would say it's really important to the elite development of players and pathway development that we're able to represent Jersey at this level. I mean, we've got a few juniors that are close to getting into this island team. We can see them coming through now, and it's so good that they've got something like this to aim for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and obviously you touched on it before. For the ladies side of things, it's going to be a young team. How good an experience is it for these guys coming through and to learn from going away to test themselves against these players and learn from these players as well?
Yeah, I think when you go to the Euros and you see the standard that's being played, sometimes because we're in Jersey and we don't get to go to many off-island events, when you actually go and see the standards being played, it's kind of an eye-opener and a bit of a wake-up to see, like, wow, the standard is 5 times, 10 times better than what we're playing on Ireland. But mainly due to a lot of the people we'll see over there are professional squash players, semi-pro squash players. So it's great to, like I said, it opens up your eyes and actually makes you want to train a bit harder for next year. And if you get 1 win next time, when you go next year, you're going to try and get 3 wins or 4 wins. So like I said, it's great to see an amazing standard squash, and the ladies especially is, when I went last year and saw some of the ladies teams, Italy, for example, ladies team were in our division, and watching them play, that was fantastic. So yeah.
I mean, it's nice, Dan, because you've got the ladies and the men's together, playing a team event. So again, it's good that it's one like that.
Yeah, definitely. In terms, what was I going to say? In terms of Jersey going over there, have you set yourselves goals ahead of the tournament, or is it go out there, play the best you can, kind of go?
I think you always want to finish in the top half of the draw. I think that's what we kind of say to our players, our team, is that you want to get through the group stages. If you get through the group stages, you're playing for the 1 to 8 positions, and that's kind of key. And obviously, it's a bit of luck in the draw, depends who you get in the group. But kind of if you can get through your group, whatever happens after that happens. And you've kind of got that goal. A 1 to 8 finish in the European Championships is fantastic. So I think that's what we would say to.
Yeah, we've just been discussing our opponents, Anthony and I. So yeah, we've been thinking about which our key matches will be to try and get into the top 8. So
but the Euros is a fantastic event. I mean, you just get to go with your team, get to go off island, play some squash, and it's just, it's a really exciting event, and it gives you something to train for, and it's a great way to end the season.
Yeah, definitely something to look forward to, and for us back home to follow as well. In turn, I want to touch on hosting tournaments as well. Obviously, Interinsular is an obvious one, but every year you host a big tournament where English teams come over, squash clubs come over. How good an event is that for the squash club? And I've seen interviews in the past where this is a standout tournament for these guys. And how good is it to have that label?
We're talking about Squash Festival here, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant for the island.
It kind of puts us on the map, I would say. The squash festivals and the racquetball festival that's been introduced recently. It puts Jersey squash and racquetball on the map, and we get some fantastic players that come over an annual event. It's been running since, how long has it been running now? For years and years and years.
I think it's 30, isn't it?
Yeah, odd years. Yeah. So it's fantastic, and it just and for the UK teams, it's just again an opportunity for them to get off, go away from home and play some squash, and come to Jersey, hopefully on a sunny weekend, and enjoy and play some squash. But yeah, I mean, we have like 5-6 divisions, 5 people in each team, about 8 teams in each division. So it's great, and I think the racquetball festival that's in May this year is like record-breaking numbers. So it's just again great to get us on the map, get to play against people that we wouldn't usually play against, because again, we're in Jersey. There's only one squash club in Jersey, so a lot of the time we're playing the same people kind of over and over again, or even in team league you're playing them at least once every 6 weeks. So it's just a great opportunity to play some new people.
I mean, we'd love to. Jersey's a great venue to host events. It's a great place for people to come, and when hopefully more sports will continue to bring in tourism and sports tourism to the island, and the squash festival is a good example of that happening very well. Yeah
I think that's spot on, and something that a lot of people miss within sport is how much tourism and people that sport can bring, and that tournament's a brilliant example of it. And you've done so well in hosting that over the years. And something I want to touch on is the club itself, and the clubhouse, the social side of the sport. It seems to be really thriving at the moment. How good has it been to see that grow as well?
Yeah, I think definitely the environment is getting better with the club, meaning there's more people playing, there's more people staying in the bar for a drink afterwards, and the kind of culture is really nice at the minute. And it's just like I said, racquetball is huge for us now. Lots of ex-squash players are converting to racquetball, which means they're still playing the game essentially, even though it's not squash. They're still coming to the club and using the club and playing against each other. So I think it's really good. And like I said, touched on the festival before, it's like our show court during the week. We have no one up there watching any games, but come the festival, we've got 200-300 people in a packed out arena. So those events are amazing. But I mean, we've got a good club for those events as well. We've got nice courts, and so it's good. But yeah.
I think socially as a sport, we are quite lucky that we have our own bar and our own social facility there, because that makes such a difference that when we do host, or for example when we do junior academy coaching, we have like a coffee morning that goes on on a Saturday, or we run a little tournament for the juniors. All the parents can come in and use the facilities at the club, which is just really nice that we've got that.
It makes it a bit more welcoming. A bit of a nicer environment, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of facilities, obviously you've got your own facility, and it's fantastic, and you want to sell that as much as you like. But squash facilities on the island, obviously you got Lekeneve, you got the court up at St John, and at the moment you still got Fort Regent. But once Fort Regent kicks sport out a little bit, how disappointing is it going to be to lose more squash courts on the island?
Yeah, I mean, it is quite devastating, really. We're losing, how many courts up is it, Vic? We're losing.
At Fort Regent, so it's 6 courts, but it's gone down now to 2, hasn't it? Because they've got the 2 open. I mean, I would say, Dan, that, I mean, you used to play at Fort Regent.
Yeah.
That's how we know each other. But it's a shame the way Fort Regent currently is, because it's half open, half closed, and there's no change facility, there's no water facility, and it's a bad way of advertising our sport to the pay-to-play market. So we're strongly pushing for ideally some further investment in courts, perhaps on this current site, that we possibly can, and we would like to in future add 2 more courts to what we've got currently here to grow further the community here. That would be our ideal, one ideal avenue to take. But we would like to replace what is going at Fort Regent.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea, and it's good to hear how you're thinking about the kind of expansion and solving the problem in a way. And in terms of where the sport's going on the island and where you think it can go as well, how much can you see it growing even more and more people coming in? You're seeing the next generation as well, coaching them. How bright is the future of squash?
Dan, one thing we haven't touched on is that the Jersey Squash Association has recently been involved with refurbishing the courts at Victoria College. This is quite exciting for us, because with an upgraded facility there, we've got lots of schools up there, and we're hoping to get in more work with them to really push the sport through squash in school up there, and use those courts. Likewise down here, we've got lots of catchment schools around, and we're looking from September to try and develop this more and get more schools using the facility, because we need to, for racket sports to grow, we need to get the young generation back playing racket sports. And what I would say about racket sports, the great thing about racket sports is whatever standard you're at, you will find an opponent to play with. Different to a team sport, where if you're in the A team, yes, you get to play, but if you're like lower down, it's harder to be involved in that sport. Squash is a great example of whatever level, there is an opponent out there.
Yeah. And do you agree? How bright is the future?
Yeah, I think there's no limitations really. I think the one thing we lack is resources a little bit, and funding, which is a bit of a barrier for us. But I think we're, regardless of that, we're trying to grow our Jersey Squash Academy, our junior program, which is really strong, and they are the future of our sport essentially. But at the same time, we've got to make sure that we're trying to grow our adult players as well as our elite players, and trying to across all levels, like Sue touched on before. It's just trying to maintain, make sure that the sport is healthy, and keep motivating whether it be juniors, adults, to keep playing squash, and hopefully reap the rewards.
Yeah. That. Go on, Sue.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I'd like to see racket sports work more together, and try work more together, and because a lot of people that play squash will also play other racket sports as well, and I think that working together could really help benefit racket sports.
And I think on the Jersey Squash Association and the club, the majority of people at the club are all voluntary, on a voluntary basis. Majority all committees, so people who have full-time jobs essentially. So there's it's just trying to, we have no part-time or full-time employees, so trying to manage and grow the sport, it can be quite difficult when everyone has got other commitments and things. So it's I think the big thing for us, like I said before, is funding. If we could get a little bit of funding or a little bit of support, there's no limitations to getting the schools programs going, to increasing squash and racquetball in general, and grow the sport.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of encouraging others to start, obviously we talked about the ladies before, and how much would you encourage both men and ladies to start the sport, old, young? just give it a go. How much would you encourage that?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's such an addicting sport to play. Once you pick it up, you want to get better and better. And I think there's so many options now. Like I said before, you've got racquetball now as well. So if you don't want to go straight into squash and it's a little bit tricky, or you might want to find a sport that's easy to pick up, racquetball is there and it's so popular. It's pretty much exactly the same as squash, still the same court, slightly different rackets, slightly different ball, but it's the same principle. So having the option of both squash and racquetball now is a huge selling point for us. And it also gives everyone from all ages, from young to old, the opportunity to play and kind of join our club and help us grow the sport in general.
I'd say, Dan, it's a lifelong sport. If you've played it at whatever age, you will always keep coming back to it. And myself as a woman, I had 4 kids, so there was a bit of a break of about 10 years, and then there was this period of time where the 4th one had just popped out, and I was like, I actually need to do something. So I needed to find a hobby, and I needed to find something that was, didn't take up too much time, and squash was perfect for me, to go and hit and get that adrenaline rush and get back on court was really exciting for me, and exciting at the time because my children were a good age to start with me again. So that brought me back in to the sport. Yeah.
And I think there's so many benefits to playing squash. So I kind of, to be honest, I'd recommend it to everyone. And the benefits being it's socially great. You're always usually playing with someone, so you kind of build up that relationship and a bit of like a competitive nature with your partner. You can play it competitively or just for fun. It's like physically, like fitness wise, it's such a good workout. I mean, if you play for 45 minutes, it's one of the highest calorie burning sports there are out there, up there with swimming and cycling. So and you don't even have to be at an amazing level to get good rallies and burn some good calories. And then I think like mentally it's huge. I think nothing feels better mentally after playing a game of squash and kind of running around. When you're on that court, you kind of forget about everything else and you're just focusing on the sport and playing and essentially hitting the ball. So I think there's so many benefits to it. So yeah, I'd encourage everyone to play it.
Yeah, amazing, well said. And on that, how can people get in touch, or even we've not mentioned where the clubhouse is as well, so maybe mention that as well.
Yeah, so the Jersey Squash and Racquetball Club is based in St Clements at the Jersey Recreation Grounds, next to the golf course, the paddle centre, and the tennis courts. We're the big white building that is located right in the middle of all of those, and we have 5 courts. But yeah, we're a big white building. You can't miss us when you come into that area and by the car park.
Yeah, the best thing if you want to start playing is to go on to our website and there's an email on there to contact the club.
So Jersey Squash and Racquetball Club website, and the email is the jsrcinfo@gmail.com.
Amazing. One last question, obviously, about the tournament coming up that you're going over to. When does it start, and how can people follow your progress?
So we go on Tuesday, the 16th of April. Daily, there'll be daily updates on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of those will be the Jersey Squash Association pages. Again, daily updates from the men's and women's teams with a few photos. And we usually try and make the posts nice and entertaining, so they'll be worth a read.
Amazing. Thank you both for your time. Good luck next week. And I've played squash for a good few years. My dad's played for more, and I couldn't recommend the sport enough. So if you're thinking about doing it, go do it. Go find these guys and give it a go. So thank you to both of you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Dan. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Brilliant. That was another episode of Sportscast Jersey. Thank you to all who have watched or listened to this episode. Another episode is coming soon.